Alright guys, welcome back to another operaomnia video where we are going to talk about Transcendence, the next upcoming event to be arriving to global operaomnia. Now this Transcendence event is basically the follow-up of the final ends of the dimension that recently ended, and now we are going into Transcendence where it is not chaos fights anymore, it's going to be LUFENIA fights. Now there are going to be 3 LUFENIA fights, the left gate, the right gate, and then the center gate, which the center gate has 2 waves in that LUFENIA fight with 2 different orb conditions, one for each wave. So we're going to talk about all of that in this video, and I did went ahead because there is a lot to this fight, because it is a good amount of information to throw out there to everybody so that way you can prepare and get ready for the upcoming tough fights. I went ahead and used some of the resources that are out there, like the dissidiaoperaomnia, the Tombe troops, who has provided a grand amount of information for everybody to use. I will post a lot of that information down in the description. I will post the link to their websites in the description of this video so that way you can check that out, because if I do review what they talk about, it's going to be a very long video, and I want to try to keep things as short as possible so that it won't take anybody's time and you can get your hands on the correct and big information that you need to know for the upcoming Transcendence fight. So as always, if you do enjoy this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for future content. Let's go ahead and jump into it, guys. Let's talk about Transcendence Floor 1. So first we're going to start with the left gate, and we're going to talk about the 2 lunatic target snipers that we are going up against. Now they are not weak against anything, they don't resist anything, they don't absorb anything. You are free to use any characters in the game. But when it comes to the LUFENIA orb, you need to bring somebody who is able to do holy brave damage onto them. Now one of the top picks for this LUFENIA fight would be Paladin Cecil, because he not only does he do holy brave damage, but he also enchants the party, making all of your teammates being able to do holy brave damage as well, so that way you won't have to rely on just one character to do the holy brave damage to control the LUFENIA orb. Now whenever you do hit them with the holy brave damage, the orb increases by 5 with a max LUFENIA count of 15. Now some tips and hints for this fight. Insta break is your best friend in this fight, because they will have an aura where they will reduce your brave damage to 1. So it is basically like a brave damage reduction. Now some key units to bring here would be Gabranth with his LD, which will be released along with the release of Transcendence, or Ramza with his LD. Now I included his LD because obviously with his LD it will help out in dishing out some damage. You can launch him, etc, etc. But really the big thing about Ramza is his shout, because his shout will be able to insta break them and cancel that aura, so that way you are able to start dishing out your normal brave damage. Another unit that comes to mind is X-Def for the gravity shave, and then after you use his skills to get them to the lowest amount, which would be 0, you can break the enemy with a teammate, and that will also cancel out the aura. If you notice that only one of the target snipers doesn't have an aura, take advantage of that to focus on them, because the turn count is tight in this LUFENIA fight with a max turn count of 65 turns. Now you may be asking, why do you say that it is a tight turn count when it's only 65 turns, so you still have plenty of time? Well, when you have to get around with that aura, and if you don't have the correct units set up to go ahead and break said aura, then that will add to the turn count until you get to said character, where you will be able to insta break them, and then you will continue on with the fight like normal. That's why I say that the turn count will be a little bit tight, because of those extra turns that you have to put up with, so that you can get rid of that aura and continue on with the battle. The target snipers have an AoE Brave plus HP attack, where the Brave hits are random, meaning that they will just hit anybody because they are just shooting their weapons everywhere on your team, which may or may not hurt depending on your team comp. One thing to add about the aura is that if you do not break them, you will get one-shotted. You'll know when they will apply their aura whenever they indicate they are targeting themselves. They will cap out on Brave and push themselves back on the turn sequence. So once again, a shout out to the Tambay Troop for the information provided for this video. And again, if you want to check out everything and some more details in terms of characters and whatnot, you will find the link to the website and to the Transcendence 1 information in the description of this video. So let's get into it, and a big thank you once again to the Tambay Troop. Now we're going up in the right gate against two Lunatic Turtles. Now with their LUFENIA orb, it appears whenever you first start the battle, and then it disappears once you reach 80% of their max HP or below, but then it reappears once again whenever you reach 50% of their max HP or below. Now to control the LUFENIA orb, it's not that difficult. You have to basically launch them, and that's going to be the main gimmick of this fight, is you have to launch them because they do have an orb, which we'll talk about here in just a second, where launching is the only way to cancel that orb. If you do not, then you will either get killed or I don't know what else could happen. So anyways, now according to the Tambay Troops, they do have a high resistance to fire and melee, and again, I'm not 100% sure if that is true or not, but you know, for the sake of this video and just in case, we're gonna go with it. The enemies relentlessly retreat into their shell with a 60k plus brave gains, while also reducing their brave damage taken to 1 until they are launched. Enemy will follow up either with a single target attack, typically their Ray Stone attack, which is an HP attack, or their Sparkle Stream, which is an AoE 1 brave hit plus an AoE HP split damage attack. A turtle will also use Jewel Brilliance, going into its shell, removing generic debuffs, gaining a lot of brave, and gaining sparkles above them. They will receive reduced HP damage in addition to the 1 brave effect until they are launched or they take a turn. Now with this LUFENIA fight, it's not too difficult because again, the main gimmick of this fight is going to be launching. So you have a couple options. You could bring Dark Knight Cecil, you could bring Ramza if you have his LD weapon, you could bring Cloud with his skill 2, you could bring in a few other units, Kais, however you pronounce his name, who just got his lost chapter recently in Global as I'm making this video. He is an option to bring in as well. He is probably the top option to bring into this fight because his launching pretty much his whole entire kit is pretty much related to launching and whatnot. So he is one of the top picks for this fight. Also, what could also help you out is bringing calls. So let's say if you don't bring Cloud, well, you could bring his call ability as well, because his regular call is his launching. You can also bring Cecil's, Dark Knight Cecil's call. You can bring his because his is also launching. And if you have a few other options here and there as well in terms of taking on these turtles. Finally, we are in the final gate for Transcendence Floor 1, which in this LUFENIA fight, there are going to be 2 waves, and each of these waves will have different LUFENIA conditions for the orb. Now, for the first one, we are going up against 2 Lunatic Affects. Now, their LUFENIA orb appears at the start of the battle, and then it disappears once it reaches 80% or below its max HP, but then it reappears whenever it reaches 50% of its max HP or below. The only way to increase the orb is when which increases by 2, is when a player inflicts 2 or more debuffs in one turn, with the max counter being at 20. Now, according to the Tambay Troops notes, you can boost the orb by inflicting 1+ debuffs on each enemy, or 2+ debuff on one enemy, and both orbs will increase by 2. At 2+ orbs, at +2 orb only, their orb will only go up by 1 after your turn. If your team isn't filled with debuffers, you may be put in a damage race at the end of the wave and need to summon or use a BT. One of these should be enough if you need it all, but it is probably best that you not try to go that route because of the second wave for this final gate LUFENIA fight. When one effect reaches 79% HP or 49% HP, both enemies will gain a blue aura, huge amount of brave, reduce all brave damage taken to 1, reduce HP damage taken by 70%, and they also delay themselves. So it's a lot to it for just one blue, for one thing. The effect must be broken or take a turn to remove the blue aura and the reduction effect. Additionally, they will gain the blue aura after one of them is under 30% HP and after they do their Banishing Gaze attack. Only the one that does the attack will gain the blue aura. If the other Banishing Gaze also, if the other does the Banishing Gaze attack as well, it will also gain the blue aura. And thank you to VL for finding this, and I will link that video down in the description of this video as well, so you can understand, you can have a better understanding of what that text means. The effect enemies will do a Brave plus HP attack generally whenever they are unbroken on their turn. And unlike Ultimecia's Lost Chapter, the bosses do not cleanse debuffs or dispel your buffs. So for this LUFENIA fight, you know, if you wanted to know like how I feel about it and how to get around with this fight, unless you want to go into the Tombe troops, because they do give a little bit more details and some tips and whatnot on this first wave. So Gebranth is definitely one of the star choices for this fight because he has that insta break, and it would be able to get rid of that blue aura much more easier. You do have a few other options. I mean, for me myself, the team that I used for this final wave was Gebranth, Ramza, and Paladin Cecil. So my Ramza was actually another option for me to use with his shout ability to be able to break off that blue aura, so it would speed up the fight a little bit. It would speed up the fight a little bit. Not too much of a difference, but it was more than enough for me to be able to just push forward onto the second wave, which the second wave is just we'll get to that here in just a bit. But you know, those two are some examples that you could use, but are probably some of the top picks. You could also probably bring in Gladio. Gladio is another option for this fight, especially going up against that blue aura. He should be able to tank whatever hits that these enemies do. And again, you can double check behind me by going to the Tombe website, because they have details on each of these characters and a couple other characters that are highly recommended for this fight. For the second wave of this LUFENIA fight for the final game, we're going up against two Lunatic Flame Masks, the Flaming Hot Wheels as many like to call them. Now they do absorb fire-based attacks, but they are weak against Holy. The LUFENIA Orb appears whenever they reach 80% of their max HP or below, and it does not go away afterwards. To be able to control the orb pauses when a player's unit's HP is at least 100% of their max HP, which is why a lot of us, including myself, have really pushed for people to pull for Paladin Cecil, because this fight with Paladin Cecil makes it 10 times easier, because without it, good luck is all I can say. So but with the Flame Max, the Flame Max are punishing truly. At 79%, 49%, and at 29% HP, each max will enter a flame mode, gain a pink flame above them, which lets the flame mask regen 86k HP on each party member's turn, and drains their HP by 50%. If both are in flame mode, they will both regen 86k on each turn you take. Yeah, I am not kidding you when I tell you the mechanic in this fight is going to be a big pain in the rear. The Flame Max must be launched in order to cancel the flame mode. If the enemies regen above the HP threshold, they will not re-enter the flame mode when you bring it back down. It's just those three thresholds, which is the 79%, 49%, and the 29% HP. Their all attacks is an AoE Brave plus HP split attack. Their recast attack is a single target multi-Brave plus HP attack. These frequent and relentless HP attacks can make it difficult to keep one ally above 100% HP to keep their orb frozen. the enemies do not enrage when one is killed. Now again, I really highly recommend that y'all check out the Tanbei Troops website in terms of which characters to bring for this final gate LUFENIA fight, because as you can see from what I have just read on what these flame masks do, they constantly hit you. They have that annoying shenanigans where you have to launch them, or if not, they are gonna be healing and they will be HP sapping you by 50% of your HP, which is stupid. And then after that, I mean, it's just this fight, this final wave of this fight is such a pain in the butt. It's unreal, and it's kind of like an introduction to the next step, next level of LUFENIA fights that's gonna be that is gonna be coming to Global Operaomnia. So it's why a lot of us really pushed Paladin Cecil for this fight, because of that HP overflow that he has with his LD ability, plus those big heals that he has as well really help out a lot with this fight. For the launching purposes, again, like if you do not want to bring a launcher, but it is highly recommended that you at least bring one, you can use your calls. You have calls like Clouds, Dark Knight Cecils, and I believe one or two more that you could bring in to this fight so that you can handle the flame mode and get rid of it as quickly as possible, so that way you can shave these things down as quickly as possible. Because again, these flame masks, these flaming Hot Wheels, they really are a pain in the butt, and the faster you get through this fight, the easier it is for you to get this win and get the hell out of here, because this fight, it really is a pain in the butt to deal with, and because you have a lot to focus on. So other than that though, guys, that's gonna be it for the video. Again, I highly recommend that you guys check out the Tanbei Troops, so that way you have a better idea of who to bring for each of these LUFENIA fights, so that way you have a better understanding of said fight and as to why they chose said characters for these upcoming LUFENIA fights in the upcoming Transcendence Floor 1. So other than that though, guys, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Hopefully you enjoy the video, and if you found it informative, please share the video around, as it really does help grow my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch y'all in my next video, and good luck.